This is Your Pain Game podcast, where we talk about the game of living in and with chronic pain and trauma, getting to the heart of how to heal. I am your host, Lyndsay Soprano. On this show, I plan on discussing with doctors, chronic pain patients, holistic practitioners, loved ones, and anybody that is interested in having their voice heard in the chronic pain and trauma world that we live in. So human suffering, right? It's pretty much what we talk about here on this show, don't we? We also talk about pulling ourselves out of suffering and into healing and into thriving. And we all need a little bit of help from time to time with our souls and our bods and how to heal from past traumas, which we talk about ad infinitum on this show. And I know that I need massive tune-ups in the suffering department. I am definitely not perfect. And I know, please don't crash your car with that information if you're driving, because me not being perfect may be a huge surprise to all of you. My suffering is different, though, than it once was, because I've now given my pain purpose, which I didn't have before. I was feeling sorry for myself all of the time. I was drinking like crazy. I was doing drugs. I was taking all the pills. I was doing all of the things, right, that Western medicine was having me do. Well, I think they gave me a prescription for wine. Some doctor had to have along the way. But I know that I have a lot of more work to do on myself and on my spirit to help me continue to do the work that I love so very much, which is talking to you guys, talking to my guests, and trying to help as many people as I possibly can on the daily. And, today I'd like to talk with my guest today. Wait until you see me. So cute. Oh, wait, you guys don't get to see him. Only me. Sorry, guys. Another almost swerving off the road situation. We're going to talk about how healing doesn't have to be so challenging, right? There is a simplicity to healing, and that our mind is the most significant hurdle. And I believe in that wholeheartedly, the power of our brains and our mind and the ability to make shifts. So anyway, we're going to talk a little bit about fear and safety as well, especially fear sitting in the body, because I am 100% the bumper sticker girl for fear and safety issues sitting in your body. That is me to a T, and we're working on it. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to my guest today, Paul Quinton. Hi, Paul.
Hello, Lyndsay. Lovely to be on.
Oh, I was literally just going to say it's lovely to have you. So thanks for being here with me. I know it's late there in London. Paul is the owner of Alignment Modality. He is a teacher of transformation and esoteric knowledge. He's going to talk about what that even means. A healer, teacher, channeler, writer. I mean, this guy does so many things for our spirits and for the healing of our globe. He practices out of London and works internationally via Skype, which is really cool. He's worked with many celebrities. He's flown all over the world to many countries as a healer and a mentor, teaching through his healing workshops. He's trained on so many different healing modalities. Your mind's going to spin. Another driving off the road. Maybe we should just have everybody park for this episode. But he says that his greatest teacher has been spirit. So let's talk about it. I'm rolling out the red carpet for you. So let's talk real quick about how you got into essentially being a medium and being part of the spiritual and psychic world, because I know that you grew up like that with your family, and then we'll take it from there.
Yeah, well, exactly. Yes, I grew up in a spiritual psychic family. So for me, it was a sort of day-to-day normality, really. My first introduction into the essence of it was doing seances and sittings. So we'd do that during the week. We'd do an evening a week, and different family members, and we'd have friends that are close to the family. So we talk to, more astral entities and spirits, and sort of get information. And it was sort of for a sort of guide and teaching, but also helping lost souls that got sort of stuck when they pass over. So that was my sort of first introduction, really. And I used to smell spirit and, see them. I was quite clairvoyant, obviously, when I was younger. And really, it was it just became my norm, and it was my sort of go-to, it was my safety net, and it was my understanding of something beyond here, and I think for me, really, the only sort of it wasn't a down part, because obviously we learn and grow, was just facing that sort of fear of that sort of the shadow, from a young age. That was a little bit challenging. So it was sort of thrown in the deep end, but really that was sort of, obviously understanding the shadow energy part of this work as well. And we'll talk about that as we go along.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. And like I said, so I grew up in that. That was my day to day. It sort of gifted me to get into this work, really. I sort of became a teenager, did my normal stuff, moved to Australia for 15 years, worked in the military for 6 years. I was traveling on ships for a couple of years. And sort of during those periods, I was learning and growing and sort of developing. It was only when I got out of the military about 23 years ago now, I sort of got into this full time. And so that was sort of the process. And in my 20s, I did a lot of this sort of development side of this work. And that's when I really went in to sort of face the shadow energy. And that was quite challenging, but also it was something that gave me an understanding of what polarity is. You know, there's nothing to fear in fear, just the belief in fear is the problem, that we should fear fear itself, you know, and this is that sort of general understanding and talking to some of these shadow beings, you start to understand that there's an intelligence and consciousness there as well. You know, it's not how sort of people portray it with this sort of duality on this planet, it's like through the movies and stuff. And it creates a lot of fear and panic around it. And really, when you sort of come out to a general understanding of what consciousness is, it allows you to expand your sort of awareness. And so that's natural. We don't actually fear that in our soul body, you know, out of this physical body. It's only because we're stuck in the 3D body at the moment, experiencing separation. So it's just when you can sort of transcend yourself out of that place and you integrate polarity, and then you get a general understanding, and it sort of takes away a lot of that panic and fear and stress. Although, you know, we've all got our lessons to learn. So
my bucket is, I have so many lessons to learn. It's ridiculous. And just when I think I've learned one again, I'm like, oh, well, she did that one again, didn't she?
Yeah, exactly.
So when you're talking about the shadows, and because for me, that means a couple different things. Like for me, my brain automatically is going like, can he tell? Do I have like, I don't know if you guys remember the movie Ghost, but whenever like the ghost guy would come in and there would be like this weird shadow of arms that would like come. Do I have like black shadowy people behind me? Because sometimes I feel like I do.
well,
Drink more wine, Lyndsay. Do it. We dare you. But so there's that part of it, like hidden, like when you're talking about lost souls. But can you talk a little bit more about the shadow part? Because I know for me, like I go into some pretty dark places when my pain is out of control, and I call myself that I'm in the darkness, or I'm in the shadows of that pain. But what I'm feeling at that point is absolute fear that I won't get any better. And this pain that I'm feeling at its worst right now, that it's been in a very long time, is this it? Am I stuck? Am I stuck in this? And then it's just this vicious cycle loop in my brain and in my skull that keeps me up. Well, it's hard to sleep when you're in pain too, but when I can fall asleep, sometimes I'm unable to because I am literally playing this fear-based narrative in my brain every night.
Yeah, absolutely. You know, and this is a good point, you know, and this is what we want to talk about. And that sort of the conversation went straight into that. I was also explaining how I was growing up and the fear come up. And it's actually, you know, very apt for now, because this year is a year of, it's the Aquarian age kickoff. It's that the feminine energy really starting to introduce itself and ground itself here permanently now. And what's happening is all the denied, repressed, ancient trauma that all human beings carry. And COVID was really a big trigger for that as well. And we'll talk about it afterwards. But all of this denial and emotional energy is coming up. And a lot of people are in fear and despair now. And the thing is, and like you said, I believe it's going to happen. But realistically, what it is this your human mind attaching to that ancient pain because it needs a story. It needs to understand it. And what we do now is then we sort of relate that to this life. And so we project that fear into this life through our imagination. But really what it's looking for is just acknowledgement. And when you acknowledge an emotional energy, then it will start to transform itself. Because this is the problem now with a lot of people, especially people that are waking up and starting to work on themselves. And it's coming up, and people that are unconscious, again, despair, panic, fear, and of course it's manifesting physically. You know, and there's obviously a lot more natural deaths now, and organ failures and all the rest of it. You know, it's been augmented for the last couple of years. And it's really about when you can go into fear and acknowledge it, and actually when you go into the archetype of fear, you actually see it as a sort of lonely, scared energy of consciousness, because we've been playing in that energy for so long now. You know, and we don't actually have to be in this 3D separation any longer. You know, as Spirit said many times, you know, we're actually sort of going backwards in some ways now because we keep repeating the same old things.
It's really sad because I experience that loop so often. And my fear is of my legs being amputated. So I have these horrible because like I'm in my wheelchair, I'm in it right now, and I'm in it this past couple of weeks. I've been like almost living in it, unfortunately. It's just something is going on. And like every woman in my life right now has all kinds of crazy, like every day, all of my girlfriends are like, what the F is wrong with me today? Like we're either too tired or they're unable to eat or they can't sleep or they're this, their stomach's upset. Like every woman I know right now is going through something funky and we're not even sure what that is, which is interesting that you brought that up. But so what do we do when we're stuck in these spaces, and how do you come in and help us heal from some of this stuckness, these lost souls? Can you talk a bit? Because I know what you do is fairly complicated, and I know we don't have 3 hours to talk about it. So I want to give you a fair amount of time to talk about, because you're so robust in what you do and how you do things. I'm just so interested in how you do things. And obviously I want to know what's happening with my soul right now. So if you could tell me at the end, that'd be great. He's like, no, Lyndsay, I don't want to do that.
Yeah. So, I mean, how I teach is basically universal law. You know, I do spiritual, energetic work, but I want to get away from any new age, hippie hype stuff. There's a lot of misinformation in the new age, and people are attaching to that still. And they're still stuck in that polarization. It's not finding the real answers. So we dial it back a bit and we change the word. I don't even use the word healer anymore, because I just use transformation. I don't really have a name for myself because it's really hard to define.
I know it's hard to define. Me trying to put this together today, I was like, I don't know how I'm going to define him at all. That is your job today, good sir.
The chameleon strikes back, but yeah. So basically, I'll get the universal laws we work with is imagination. This is based off what's science was introduced by Einstein. He really sort of brought forward the science of imagination, and he was the first one to really open the door to it. You know, and obviously, and this is the difference between looking for the facts, because the fact is, imagination is what creates science, but scientists don't see it that way. So it's sort of a process of understanding that. And he's the one that sort of brought through the magnetics of the planet. Okay. And he understood and he explained. That's why they said he was going mad in the last 10 years. And he was talking about love instead of science, like being the only consciousness to work with. So really, we work off that because that consciousness is real. Imagination is our most powerful tool. It's shut down in our school system. It's shut down in our society generally. There's reasons for that, but I'll not get into all that side of the stuff now. But what this is it's the doorway into the unconscious. So it's not even about visualizing, because you just imagine what you're visualizing and it's just there instantaneously. And it's that intention alone. So we work with intention, because intention is the foundation of all outcomes. Okay? Observation, and this is where I'm not a scientist anyway, but this is where quantum physics explains. There's a test that they do where they don't observe particles or light waves or something, and as they go through, they change their frequency. So they go messy, they go all around, and when you observe it, it comes back to its natural state. And it explains that when you observe something, it creates a connection, and that connection, it connects consciousness. And then depending on the intention with that, what you're looking at, it will transform itself. So it's the same as emotional energy. When emotional energy is in your present, in your body, if you acknowledge it through those universal laws, which is very, very simple, it will remove itself, because the emotions do not want to be inside you either. They're actually pure consciousness. And this is the ancient knowledge that's been kept from us, that we haven't awoken back up to. And it's the simplicity in consciousness and healing is so simple, because we come into this society and it's left brain, too many facts, figures, this stimulation of all of this. To be honest, a lot of it is misinformation in many ways, because we're cut off from our consciousness. So, and it becomes a game of left brain, who's got more, inadequacy starts, competition. And what it does is good in many ways, but it actually diverts us from our true self. So when you can understand the universal laws, healing's very simple. And like they say, no one can actually heal you. You can guide someone to heal themselves, because no one can take away your own pain. You have to acknowledge it through emotion. You have to feel the emotion. We don't even work with belief systems anymore, because obviously when you have an accident or an altercation with someone, you're going to create a belief system about that experience. And then you're going to have an emotional response to it. So they go hand in hand. Beliefs and emotions manifest at the same time. So when we do a lot of the old therapies, we work a lot with belief systems. And what happened is the energy would then come back because the emotional energy that was created at the same time as the belief is still stuck in the person, and that will erupt. And it's because until emotion is actually felt, it can't transform itself. So when you observe something, you also create space. Now, when there's space between you and an observing point, that's when conscious or divine current can move in, create oscillation, and it starts to break up your attachment to it. Because everything's magnetic. So everything comes into this planet, it's magnetic. So if you've got a belief system of, I'm no good or money's evil, you're always going to have a level of poverty conscious, or you're going to have, you're going to be on the bread line, hand to mouth, or you'll get money and lose money very quick.
Yeah.
And it's that.
Yeah.
So, but you won't blend with the frequency of, because money is consciousness as well, it's energy. So it's also about understanding how the energy works within money too. So the point is that, so when we get back to coming into alignment with yourself, that frequency is really, really important, because when we divert out of our understanding of consciousness, and I'm getting a little bit ahead here, but when we see ourselves as a physical being, when we wake up in the morning and look in the mirror and go, that's what I look like, that's who I am, these are my belief systems, and that's my narrative. It's that mental connection that we're actually caught in now.
And so I'm sitting here as I'm thinking, and I totally believe in what you're talking about, especially in relation to our energy and our soul. And, and I love how you talk about the 3D, because I'm super visual. So for me, I want this to be a visual experience.
Yeah.
So when you're talking and so when you go and you meet with whoever you do, you have a new client, do you work in groups? Do you work on one-on-one? Do you do both?
Okay, yeah. So I'd always take an initial call before we decide to work together, make sure it's the right fit. That's normal standard. And then we'll go into session. I normally do like a 10-week package. People can work with me one-on-one, but I tend to do that because they get a lot more time. They get more mentoring, coaching. It's a bit more bespoke. So basically, it doesn't matter how I do it, but the one-on-one. So you come in, we'd have this conversation, and then basically we just talk a little bit on the first session, just to get a rough idea of what's going on, your pain points. It also allows me to read how much of your shadow is still in the way, because depending on how you answer certain things, I'll know what's very good. But that's okay. But that's more for me, and it's not to make you stand out already.
Earth isn't going to explode after you start looking at all the shadows over here.
So I'm going to put you on the spot, is what I was meant to say. Yeah. Anyway, so then we'll go in there, and basically what I'll do is I'll work with your soul. I give essences sometimes, which are planet essences, their frequency, and they will release certain things in the body, like ancient deep trauma that's still stuck, that can't come up. And they basically work in your subconscious 24/7. So it's a process. Depending on the person and what we need to do, that can come in as well. But that's the only sort of thing that I give out. The rest of it's all done with directly energy and working with the soul. We go into lives. I start talking. I start to see pictures of what's going on. Soul talks with pictures generally. I sometimes get words, but it's very imagery. And basically what will happen is then they'll start to feel things, they'll start to move. Then other lives will come through, what we call past lives. A lot of them are happening right now because there's no linear time. So that presence will come through, they'll talk to it, and then they release it. And generally you'll have a physical reaction. So there's a lot of things going on in the body.
Holy moly, no kidding. I'm like, whoa.
Yeah,
am I going to need to go to the hospital afterwards? Especially with this one over here.
Absolutely. Well, that's what we teach. So the modality that I teach is generally 4 modules plus practitioner level. Basically, we take you through the 3 minds at each level. You get different essences. There's a lot of activations. We give you healing astrology. There's deep healing on there. Anyone that comes on the group has all been together in other lives. So it's very, very interesting. Each group is different. We do group healings as well. We work on psychic development, psychic skills, intuitive skills. A lot of it is really about reintroducing you back into your light body consciousness, preparing you for this new earth shift that we're going. But we take you through and teach you all these universal laws and how to deal with yourself in the moment. Because it's all good having one-on-ones and being on the workshop and everything's great and you're healing. You've got 2 days later, you're on your own and that despair comes up. You're going to freak out because you're attached to it. So we teach you how to let go of that attachment to your pain and to the fear and emotions. And it's so, so simple. The hardest thing is getting your ego mind out of the way. Because the ego mind goes, that's too simple. How does that work? And
exactly. I've spent all this money and all of this time to do all of these things to feel better and none of it has worked. How could it be easy? And that's going to absolutely, I'm glad that you said that, because that's the first thing when I was looking through all of your stuff again and to prep for us today. when I just saw the word simplicity of healing, I laughed because I'm like, sure it is. But I like that you say it that way because it is our ego. We need to get out of our own way.
Yeah.
I say that all the time. I need to get out of my own way. And I know for me, the fear thing is so intense. And one thing that I'm working with a gal right now, her name's Katie Wrigley. She does something called cognitive movement, and it's really interesting with the brain. Anyway, she was talking about how asking some questions to me before we began about, are you willing to let go of your pain? Something to this extent. It's not verbatim, but are you willing to let go of your pain? And what do you look like? And what does your life look like without being in pain anymore?
Yeah.
And she's like, I need you to start visualizing that person, not the person that's right now here kicking it in the wheelchair, but to visualize this healthy person again that is out of the wheelchair, that's skiing, that's hiking, that's biking, that's walking my dogs, all the stuff I used to do. And it was a scary thought because I was like, all I know now is pain. That's my whole life revolves around it, you know? And it sucks, man. I mean, it sucks. And so when you think about letting go of the pain, it's scary. It's like legitimately scary because now I'm like, well, who's that person going to be? And that is all my ego. You like nailed it. I'm like, and I'm tearing up, of course, over here, guys, because that's what I do here. I laugh through my tears.
That'll through. You got a good spirit.
Oh my God. Well, I hope so. Something's got to be going on good over here, I tell you. Thank you. I did. I'm going to do the other shoulder too while I'm at it. No, but it's just, it's refreshing to hear that it's not so hard because all we hear, especially in the chronic pain department community is, oh, it's just so much work, or I'm so tired. And we're all tired. We're tired of going to doctors. We're tired of telling our story over and over and over again, expecting different results. And all it is like, great, we'll take all these tests and we'll see. And then you have all these results and then nothing to do with, nowhere to go with all of it. So it's a real frustrating process. So thank you for using the word simplicity in anything that is in relation to pain, because it's not a word that's used very often.
Yeah. And it's also, you get the healing side, but it's also getting you to understand that you're the creator of your own reality. So what's going on in you is the physical world. No one can go against your will. So even your worst enemy, you've agreed that on a soul level because they're there to reflect something you need to learn in yourself. They're there to shadow your energy. And so when you come into that, this is why we teach it, because when you understand that, everything is surmountable through life. And you understand why things are happening, and you can stop them before they happen, and you know how to deal with things. And to be honest, your lessons you invite the lesson in, you see it as a gift. Our normal consciousness is to hide and run away from it. It's too painful. I don't want to deal with that. And the problem is what you were just saying is misinformation. The world's full of misinformation around health and also our consciousness. So we're plugged into these professionals, like you said, same old story. Like, I hear that. I've been hearing that for 30 years. It's everywhere. It's worldwide, and I'm talking worldwide people. And so it's that's enough to understand consciousness, and we know this in the spirit world anyway. But like I said, coming back to simplicity, when we were channeling it, they said you have to teach this way. So I'm teaching exactly. This is nothing. This is what they told me to teach in this way. And they said the last thing human beings need now is another full set of rules and procedures to awaken themselves, because they're already exhausted. Everyone is exhausted. Like you said, all your friends are ringing up. They're exhausted. That's the ancient consciousness coming up. If they taught us that, we'd be able to deal with it. So this is why, people like me and other great professionals are coming through, and there's many people speaking now, and they're sort of putting that frequency back on the planet and hoping, channeling, because we're channels really for the spirit consciousness. So really that's every time we talk to someone, that information, if you're ready to hear it, your cell awakens to that information. And the cells is how we pass light on the planet. It's all done through the cellular and subatomic level. And that's what we're really introducing now. We're coming back into the frequency of using algorithms. We get into algorithms as well on the workshops, which is really interesting. Divine masculine, divine feminine, consciousness threads, how they create, and how to bring the receptor cells in to draw in light consciousness back on the planet, because it's all died down, you see. And we also do oscillation in the two brain hemispheres to create a magnet to hold source energy in the body. Because what we're trying to do is awaken you while you're still in the human body. It's not about ascending anywhere. You're already ascending. You're multidimensional. There's nowhere to go. What we're not being is human. We need to be. New Age movement has us running around trying to ascend to some place that they've never even seen or heard of. And it's gone mad. People are literally going mad. They're trying to get off the planet.
Seriously, we're trying to get off the planet. All of the 45-year-olds here in Los Angeles, women are losing their minds. Our mid 40s, I guess that's it. It's funny because it's true. All like shit. Yeah, I know. I'm like, great. If I make it to 90, that would be an absolute miracle in my mind. I don't even know if I'll make it to 70. Who knows? But don't put that out in the universe, Lyndsay. Don't do that. But there's my fear talking, because guess where that? Oh, wow! I just caught myself in it. That was my fear narrative. That because CRPS is called the suicide disease, that I'm either going to kill myself because I'm in so much pain, or my legs are going to have to be amputated, or I'm not going to be able to live in this body because it hurts so much that I won't make it to that old of an age. That is the narrative. Pretty healthy, huh? Sounds like a great plan, Lyndsay. Oh my God. But that is how scary it is.
Yeah, well, I need to talk to you because it's about understanding your attachment. It's when you can change it. That's what I was trying to explain. That it's attachment, your mental attachment to it.
Well, we just did a very good job of showing that.
If you're ready to hear the truth,
I am 100% attached to it. I am. And it's not because I don't want to not be in pain anymore. I do. This sucks. But I'm really, I feel stuck, right? I just feel stuck, and my body feels stuck, and my personality is trapped in this body right now. That's just, it's driving me crazy because I have so much energy, and I have no idea how I do when I don't sleep much and I hurt the way I do. It's just how I was built to just like keep on trucking. But the keep on trucking thing has also been hard because I push through pain like nobody's business to the point that I'm exhausted and I can't go on anymore, because I want to make sure I get as much accomplished as I possibly can as a human in a day. It's ridiculous because it's not helping my body out either. And I'm starting to get better about it, catching myself like running haggard, and not doing as much self-care as I need to. Anyways, I'm going down on a tangent and I need to catch myself. But that was a good catch on my side because that narrative is so loud. It's screaming at me all the time, and I gotta let go of it. So obviously we're going to be working on that. So can you real quick before we jam, talk a little bit about, the length of time, just making sure that everybody understands what you do and then where to find you.
Yes, I work one-on-one. Like I said, they could just do by the hour. The package is more for someone that really wants to do a deep dive into themselves and wants a little bit more personal touch. And then obviously I give them certain things as work, hypnosis, all the rest of it. And then I do like I said, one-on-one, hour by hour, 10 by week package. And then the alignment modality really is like I said, it's 4 modules. Generally, those 4 modules would be done over about 18 months, roughly, because you need time to integrate. Okay. And each group is different, so always tune in, and we have a catch up afterwards. So we do a lot of healing work as well, and also there's a lot of group work where they work in pairs, and that's really to develop things. So they get a whole brand new set of symbols to work with. Like I said, the activations alone, it takes 3 months for everything to process just from the activation. And of course, it's really about getting people to understand their consciousness, their ego, and be able to separate themselves from that. Then we can go into the shadow work. And then we start to go more into the non-physical. We go into the deeper aspects, the pineal and hypothalamus, the meridian system. And we start to work with the algorithms. We start to introduce spirits, so they start to come into the room as well. People feel them, they have interaction. And I don't see them. It's not freaky. Don't worry. There's nothing.
You just saw my face. I was like, I've seen dead people.
Ironically, when we sleep, we go and see them anyway because we jump straight out of our bodies. We just don't remember.
Oh, man. I hope that's what starts to happen for me because I don't sleep. Yeah. So
that's good. So, so that's it. 4 modules. And then there's a practitioner level. So the practitioner level is done later. It's over about 3 months at the moment. I'm changing things around at the moment. And that's really about becoming a practitioner. So it's insured, patented now, 35 countries, I think 35 or 40 countries it's insured in now. So it's all accredited. So they get insurance, they get all that stuff if they become practitioner. That's all the technical side. But basically, we take them into a real developing the psychic senses and the intuition and really sharpening it. So when you work with a client, they can see straight away and it's dynamic, it's in the moment, and be able to go into and sort of start to talk to people's souls directly. And it's a wonderful skill, because when you can actually master that, fantastic as if you want to be a practitioner. But level 4, anyone and everyone should do it, because everyone is human, everyone's going through the same old stuff. So that's really about for the man on the street, as they say. The practitioner level is if you want to become a practitioner, basically, and if you want to develop yourself a bit more as well. So that's the journey.
Well, that's awesome. So not only can we get ourselves fixed a little bit, you also have a potential new career ahead of you guys.
The world needs.
It's so neat. It's so neat. Well, is there anything else that you'd like to leave our listeners with before we jam out of here?
No, I'm good. That was great talk. Just remember, when you get a simple technique, if you've got the emotion that's there, don't define yourself by it. If it's coming up now, especially now, it's just looking for acknowledgement. So close your eyes, give it a color, give it a shape, and create space. So observe it at a distance and just thank it. Just give it gratitude and just observe for a couple of minutes till it dies down, and then you'll start. It might come up in waves. It's the difference between being able to get rid of it in 5 minutes or it's lingering all day. Sometimes when you get those, you wake up with an emotion, it just sits with you all day. Yeah, we can bypass all that. But it also gives you the power, and then you go, I know how I'm in control of this. When people know they're in control, power comes because they feel good about themselves.
Ooh, and you're talking to a control freak. So yeah, that's very, very sexy. Well, thank you so much for your time with me and my listeners today. This has been very interesting and eye-opening in so many ways. And I believe wholeheartedly in all of this kind of stuff. And so for all of you people that might be a little bit like, this is a little too woo-woo for me, why don't you just give him a call? Because there's nothing woo-woo going on with this man. Thank you again so much for your time with us today. I appreciate it. You are exclusively invited to share this very intentional and soul-filled VIP pain journey together. Let's get to the heart of how to heal with you by my side. If you know anybody that is living in and with chronic pain, if you do, please send them my way here to the Pain Game Podcast. I would love to connect with them, hear their heartfelt stories of strength and wisdom and sheer awesomeness. We are here for you. That's why I've created this community of VIPs together. Reviews, also, little housekeeping. Stop what you're doing and hop on Spotify and Apple and do a quick review of the show. We'd love to have my community of listeners help us drive a little more traffic to the show so we can continue to help others on their journeys through trauma and pain together. Please follow the Pain Game Podcast wherever you digest your podcast content. We will be there. Visit us at thepaingamepodcast.com and follow us on all the socials. Thanks for listening, my little VIPs. Catch you on the other side.